Hello, I'm Susanna Kelly, coming to you from Hart House at the University of Toronto. Welcome to an Ontario Newswatch special, the Ontario PC Presidential Candidates Debate. It's not often that the race for the presidency of an Ontario political party generates so much interest. As a matter of fact, it's not often there is a race for the presidency. But it's not often there's a minority government in this province either, with the ensuing possibility of an election at any time. As part of ONW's mission to throw open the doors of politics and cast a light for everyone in the province to see and understand, we've invited the three candidates for president of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party to debate the issues facing their party. Let me introduce each of the candidates. John Snobelin is a former cabinet minister in the Mike Harris government, having been in charge of both the Education and Natural Resources ministries. Richard Ciano is a longtime PC activist who has managed campaigns for MPP Peter Sherman and federal cabinet minister Peter Van Loan. As a principal of the firm Campaign Research, he was chief strategist in Rob Ford's campaign for mayor of Toronto. And Kevin Gaudet is the former national and Ontario director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He also ran as a PC candidate in the last provincial election. Just before we get to the debate, let me explain the format. This will be an informal debate. While there will be 1-minute opening and closing statements by each of the candidates, we will otherwise throw the formal rulebook away and have an open roundtable discussion on 3 topic areas. The first will be conservatism and the PC Party of Ontario. The second, party renewal. And the third, winning the next election. And now, without further ado, let's get to the 1-minute opening statements. The order of both the opening and closing statements, by the way, was determined by the candidates drawing numbers from a hat just before the debate. So, first opening statement to you, John Snobelin.
Well, thank you. And thanks to ONW for giving us the opportunity to bring a little bit of the campaign that we've been on now for a couple of weeks to people across the province. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm John Snobelin. I'm running for president. I believe this is a very important time for the province of Ontario and for our party. Our province desperately needs our party at its very best now, both in opposition to a minority government and in the next election taking a strong and bold conservative message to the people of Ontario. That's why I'm running for president of the party. I believe it's time for us to be proud again and time for us to be bold again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John Snobelin. Now, Richard Ciano.
Yeah, thank you. The PC Party of Ontario needs strong organization. We've lost 3 elections in a row under 3 different leaders. This is not acceptable to our membership, and changes need to be made in our management. We can't make the same mistakes again because Ontario needs us to win. Based on my experience on several winning campaigns and as Vice President of the Conservative Party of Canada, I've put together a detailed plan that lays out a roadmap to help Tim Hudak and our candidates win the next election. Here it is. We need to support our leader. We need to give our ridings the flexibility to win their local campaigns. We need to change the culture of our party headquarters. Victory doesn't come easy. It takes hard work. We need a president who will do that hard work, will roll up their sleeves and get out there and make sure that we can win the next election. And listen to our members and our volunteers and make sure they're respected. I'm Richard Ciano, and I want to be your president.
And Kevin Gaudet.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, fellow Ontario Conservatives. Look, like you, I care about the future of the PC Party of Ontario. Like you, I share a desire for a PC majority government with a premier in Tim Hudak, and soon. And that's what I hope we focus on here tonight, our party's future. Yes, in the past we've made some mistakes. As a candidate in the recent election, I too was disappointed in our results. But the past is over. We need to learn from our mistakes of yesterday, revitalize our party today, so that we can beat Dalton McGuinty tomorrow. And the good news is that our party members are ready to do just that. In the last few months, we've been traveling the province and hearing concerns from party members, and the message is loud and clear. You want change. You want new ideas. You want revitalization. And that's why I think I would be the best president of this party, to involve the grassroots to get our party back on track. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And now we will move into the roundtable discussion portion of the debate in the three topic areas. Our first area of debate is conservatism and the PC Party of Ontario. And I'm going to, just so everyone understands, there'll be 2 questions in each of these sections. First question here. There's always been inside the party a pitched battle for the heart and soul of the PC Party. Blue Tory versus red Tory. Fiscal conservatives versus social conservatives. In your view, what kind of conservatism should the party pursue in 2012? We'll go to you, John.
So it's an easy question. Well, you know, I've written extensively on this because there is, I think, at least the perception of that divide, although I think it's more often mythology than it is real. I'm a purple conservative. You know, I think that we've demonstrated in the province an ability to stick to the things that really matter to Ontarians. That's strong fiscal management. That's a sense of the entrepreneurial spirit that built this province. That's an understanding that individuals can make the best choices for themselves and their families and their communities. Those are the conservative values that have lasted for generations. And those are the ones that are solid, that our members are solidly behind, and frankly, that we share with millions of people in all sorts of different communities in this province. I think that's what a conservative is.
All right, either you gentlemen. By the way, anybody jump in whenever you like.
You know, I see the role of president as to ensure that the organization and the process is there and in place, so that the ideas can come up from the members of the party. That's always been a traditional strength of our party, and we've got to get back to making sure that the ideas are there and can flow from the membership up to the top, and that we're ready to run an election on those ideas. I think the role of president isn't to be the public face of the party. I think, quite frankly, that it's dangerous for the president to try and play a role beyond that organization and process in the party. You know, we have a leader, and we only need to have one leader.
So what kind of conservatism are you?
Well, I think that we have in our party, we have people, as we said, people who focus more strongly on the fiscal conservative side of things, people who focus more strongly on the social conservative side of things. That's fine. The part of the president is to make sure that all those ideas are heard and that we have processes and a democratic way of ultimately having those ideas become part of our platform.
Kevin?
Well, so I don't think voters or party members care too much about labels. I think what they care about are results. Look, the conservative values I believe in: kindness, frugality, and humility. I believe in freer markets. I believe in individual responsibility. I believe in the family. And those are the kinds of values that I would bring to the table as president. And they're values that bubble up from the grassroots of our party. But at the end of the day, we need to have our grassroots more involved, because after all, they are the greatest asset of our party.
All right, why don't we move on then to the second question. Many say that the party must be a more conservative party once again. And that it was the red Toryism of John Tory and a platform that wasn't maybe right-wing enough that delivered the last 2 election defeats anyway. But at one time, the Tories were unbeatable in Ontario. They spent 42 straight years of government delivering red Tory policies under the likes of Bill Davis. Is there room for red Tories anymore in the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party? Kevin?
As I mentioned, I don't think voters or our members care so much about the labels we want to put on things. I think our grassroots want to be heavily involved in the party, that they want to take back their party. They want to be involved in a policy development process that reflects their values and their interests across the party, because they recognize that it is their party. I think they recognize that the answers to fixing our party can't just be found in the back rooms, and they want to have their voices heard on all the policy elements. And one of those things, to be clear, would be to have a very clear, deferential, principled conservative platform.
Yeah, I actually agree with Kevin on that. And I think that the whole party label thing is a little bit overstated. And there's been a lot of talk about the rigid central campaign that we had, that it frankly, and I'm sure we'll get into that when we talk a little bit later, it kind of suffocated the folks at the riding level and didn't let them run a local campaign that they needed to. But it also suffocated, I think, the leader a little bit and stopped the real Tim that we know from showing through. And I think that was one of the weak points of our campaign. I think the three of us who've had experience with Tim know if Ontarians saw the real Tim, we would have done much better in the campaign. And unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen.
John, is there room for
Well,
red Tories in the party?
You know, I think that's a debate for a different age and time. You know, maybe that was back in the days when you had to wait for the picture tube to warm up. You know, this party, the PC party, now is going to take to the public of Ontario a platform that will address the challenges today. And the challenges today are awesome. I mean, the most daunting challenges that our party's ever seen, that our province has ever seen. We have a record debt, a record deficit. We desperately need change in programs like healthcare. We need change in programs like education. We need to have an energy policy in the province that actually works for people. There is a lot to do, and we have a very short time frame to do that in. So I agree with my colleagues that it's time to get our party structured so that it can address those serious issues and take them to the public. That we need to share those things, those values, those principles, and those policies with millions of people across the province.
All right, well,
But that's another aspect on which I think all of us have talked about and agreed during this campaign is the need to get rid of this label talk and to talk more about reaching out. We've all agreed on a need to have greater outreach in our party because our important conservative principles actually do sell well into a variety of new communities, new Canadians, for example, who share our principles and our values, but don't know that they do because we haven't been as successful in building bridges to them. And I think that's something that we will be building on with my new presidency.
well, you've kind of answered the last question I had, so I'll go to the other two gentlemen on this. How would you, Richard, as president, concretely ensure that the type of conservatism that you would like the party to put forward, however you define it, is reflected in the party?
Well, I think it's a
In the party platform.
In the party platform, great. Absolutely. I've talked a lot about this, and I've covered in my plan that we do need to get back to our party constitution, which sets out in quite a bit of detail what the policy development process should be. You know, the reality is that we had PAC committees, we had volunteers spending countless hours developing great policy for us, and in the end that policy was unfortunately discarded and not used. So one of the things I've talked about is bringing an accountability measure so that the campaign team needs to come back to the policy committee of the party and explain why policies from the PAC committees weren't included in the platform, because this is clearly a problem that we've had. So that's one of the ways that I would address it, to make sure that we get back to having our platform actually inspired by our members.
John?
Well, you know, I've had the opportunity to be a part of the policy building program for our party on a number of occasions. I was a PAC and part of the group that helped put together the Common Sense Revolution. You may be familiar with that. It was anyway. And then a thing called Vision 2020 that helped us into 1999, and then Seize Tomorrow's Opportunities. And I've also benefited from the policy development program. You know, this doesn't end with the platform. When you become a minister, you get that policy binder that's a lot of work and a lot of attention, a lot of detail on what people think about various policies. So it's an important process. Let me say that one of the things we did with the last process, Seize Tomorrow's Opportunity, that I was deeply involved in, the very first step was we took our values and principles statement, which is in our Constitution, and we went out and we became more familiar with that in town halls and community centers across the province. Now we do that virtually. But it's really good before we go and do policies to look at who are we? What are our values and principles? What are the things that we stand for? So we build policy on top of that. And I think that's an important step for us coming out of Niagara Falls this year.
All right, we'll move into the second portion of the debate now, which is party renewal. First question there, how would you ensure, as president, that this goes a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, that party members have a real say in what policies make it into the platform, but also that that are enacted by a future PC government? And let's go to you, Richard.
Sure. I mean, we've got this is a really hot issue among the members of the party. We've clearly got to look at ourselves in the mirror as a party and recognize that we've become very disengaged from our members. We've become an increasingly centrally controlled, top-down party that's tone deaf to our members and blind to our shortcomings. So that's something we've absolutely is job one. And part of dealing with that is changing the culture, the member service culture of the party, creating a member service culture in the party so that we do start treating our members and volunteers with respect. That's how we'll get to the kind of party that we want to have and have that renewal in the party.
Kevin, how would you ensure that policies that come up from the grassroots are reflected in the platform and future government policies?
Well, some of the language that Richard was using, I like. I mean, I talk about a need for a culture change in our party. One of my first points in my 5-point plan for building together for victory is running to win, not to avoid losing. I felt in the last campaign we were a little more timid than we could have been, but that's the past. And looking to the future, we can learn lessons from that, where we can put in place from the grassroots themselves, with a more invigorated grassroots. When we look across the country, Ontario is no different. We see a voting population that are apathetic when they're disregarded, and our membership are no different. So the more we engage them and mobilize them and invigorate them, the better our policy will be, and that'll inspire more broadly across the province.
John?
Well, I've been at this intersection before several times, and it's a critical intersection. I mean, we need to do two things. We need to go talk to our members, and by the way, the expert community and other people across the province who can support us based on our values and principles, and ask them what they see for the future of Ontario and how we get through these very difficult challenges that are before us now. And then we need to take all of that work, and it's voluminous. I mean, there's an awful lot of great ideas out in the province, and make that into a platform that people can digest easily and is easily understandable. There's a lot of art involved in that. The critical thing is for respect all the way through. Respect when we're going out and asking people for their opinions and their ideas. Respect when that is put together in policy binders. Respect when that becomes the platform. We need to have that mutual respect all the way along as people are accountable for different parts of this. I agree that it's important for us to get those strong positions, those bold positions, our bold ideas about Ontario into a platform.
All right, second question. Last weekend we watched the Federal Liberal Party spend hours.
Who?
The Federal Liberal Party.
No,
Your friends.
we didn't watch them. You might have.
They spent hours passionately debating and voting on policy resolutions that they'd been working on, presumably for months, just as the sort of process that you're talking about right now. Then the same party voted to defeat the idea of binding the Liberal leader to any of those policies and giving he or she a veto over them. So I would ask each one of you, would you be in favor of the leader of the Ontario PC party being bound by party policy that had been voted on by party delegates at policy conventions?
First, we want to find out where you are on the marijuana thing. Are you okay with that? Not, or, yeah, just checking in. Okay, all right.
What we want to have is our policy platform that's inspired by the members, and I think one of the things I'd say clearly is, as I trust the values of the collective of the members of the PC party. I'm not concerned about, frankly, our members aren't crazy. We're not going to pass a resolution calling for the legalization of marijuana, to put it bluntly. So I'm quite comfortable with the policy process. Nobody is saying that it be bound, that it has to be in the platform, but we do have to draw a stronger connection between our policy development process and the platform. And that's why I've talked about that accountability measure. Unfortunately, what happens now is our volunteers on our PACs feel like the work that they've done in creating these policy reports goes into a black box and never to be seen from again. So we've got to have more accountability around that. But of course, there's going to be times where something that the grassroots come with as a policy can't be included in the platform for various reasons. But the idea is to get as much of the input as possible from the grassroots into our platform.
Kevin, would you be in favor of the leader being bound by party policy voted on by delegates at a policy convention?
The short answer is no. In practice, I'm not sure that's the most practical approach. Look, I think we've got a good leader who's got a good head on his shoulders, who's going to be capable of putting together a good platform, and he needs to be better supported across the party, which means we need to bubble up good policy from the policy so that he's got good stuff to choose from. But our members are our greatest asset in the party, and we need to rely on them more, and Tim's capable of doing that. He'll do a good job of it. I mean, what's interesting and important from the Liberal Convention is further recognition that our Liberal friends stand for little, and the things they do stand for are principles and values that I don't share and our members don't share. And we're nothing if we're not united. We do good things when we fight a common enemy, and we can accomplish great things when unite to fight a common enemy. And that's what our party membership will be doing at our convention, supporting Tim so we can fight that common enemy in Dalton McGuinty because he's killing this province.
John, your position on binding?
Well, listen, I think there's strong evidence for how the Liberal Party managed to rise to third place in the country. I think that they're firmly locked in 1982 in the way they select policies. They're analog in a digital age. I mean, we need to learn the things that we've learned about policy development. We've done some great stuff over the last couple of decades. We need to learn how to apply that into a digital age. Having people vote on delegates in a room of card-carrying party members isn't how you get the very best ideas for how we take this province back to prosperity. That requires a reach that's much broader than the community halls and the conference centers that the Liberals seem to find their policy in. We need to get out to people who can help us develop the very best future for the province.
Well, so are you saying, how does the party become more democratic in that way if the leader isn't bound?
Well, because people want to say, not a vote. People want to have an opportunity to contribute to us, even if they aren't card-carrying members. You know, we got some great ideas from people who later became conservative PC party members in the 1990s and early 2000s. We found people who had the same values and principles we had, who had an expertise in an area, and we asked them, what would you do? I think looking inside for everything is not a great way to grow a party, and it's certainly not a great way to develop a brilliant set of policies for the future of the province.
I'll ask you two the same question, actually.
Well, I think the challenge or the issue that your question trips over really is that as a party, as a modern political culture in the country, I think parties come to rely too much on party pollsters and backroom politicians and focus groups and not often enough on the common sense of the members of their party. But like John said, that doesn't mean that the party members should have every single thing they want included. I think there needs to be a delicate art to the leadership to figure out how to better listen to the voices of our members. Because our members want to contribute. They want to be listened to. They don't want to have everything their way all the time. They just want to be listened to and have an important role to contribute.
And again, we have our party constitution in Articles 18 and 19 spells out an excellent policy development process. We just need to follow it. We used to be leaders in this area as a party, not just in Canada and North America, but the world. So it's there for us. We just need to follow it. And absolutely, Kevin, better than most people, I know the limitations of polls and focus groups. And you're right. Ultimately, the policy that we run on, the values, the principles, that's got to be inspired by our members.
So I agree with you. When in doubt, follow the Constitution. Yes. Yep.
All right, we're going to move into the next section then, which is winning the next election. I think that's what everybody wants to hear your ideas for doing that. So in the last election, several of you have been, well, since the last election, several of you have been very clear and very public at your displeasure about how the election results came in last time. And here I'm going to read you some quotes. Mr. Chiano, we didn't win. We could have won. It was there for us. There's no reason we couldn't have formed the government. There was a rigid central campaign.
Anybody disagree with that?
Anybody
disagree with that statement?
I don't want to personalize by naming names, you said, but they know who they are. Party members are frustrated, disillusioned, and really, really angry. Mr. Gaudet, you said, the Ontario PC Party could and should have won, but we blew it. We need to take a hard look at the campaign. The central campaign took autocratic, dictatorial, top-down control to probably a level that had never been seen before. We at the party need to take back our party. I don't think the main problem was Tim, but it would be unfair and naive to suggest that he doesn't deserve any blame at all or any fault. And Mr. Schnoebelen, you said, you took a bit of a different tack. You said, I think we figured out what happened. What we need is to get our mojo back. So
you didn't miss much of that Toronto Star article at all.
I was just going to give the Toronto Star credit for that, but some of those quotes also are on your website.
Sure.
Okay, and in your materials.
And I also said, just so you'll know, that I also suggested that people check in with ONW at least twice a day. And it wasn't in there. I don't know how they missed that.
All right, let me ask you then, one at a time. I'll start with you. Kevin, what are the lessons from the last election?
Well, I think the main lesson is that our greatest asset is our grassroots. The past is over, and we need to move forward and learn our lessons. We learn our lessons from yesterday so that we can build the party today so we can defeat Dalton McGuinty tomorrow. We do that with my 5-point plan. Look, Winston Churchill said to Roosevelt, give us the tools and we'll get the job done. And we learned in the last election that we didn't have all the tools we need, and we didn't quite get the job done. Sure, we beat Dalton McGuinty down to minority government, but the party grassroots are motivated. They're ready to do the job with the right tools to finish the job so we can make Ontario more prosperous with Tim Hudak as Premier.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin absolutely on that, and I just take it a little bit farther. Our two greatest assets are the members and our grassroots of our party and our leader, Tim Hudak. And what happened was, and I think we all in varying degrees agree with this, but we just ran such a rigid central campaign last time. We didn't give the local campaigns the flexibility they needed to win their local campaigns. And again, we didn't clearly give the leader the flexibility he needed to show through and to let Tim be Tim, in effect. You know, Tim did everything he was asked in the campaign. Well, I mean, very clearly, we've got to, you know, the party president is at the table with the campaign team and others, making sure that the grassroots are respected, a voice at the table to make sure that the common sense approach of allowing the leader to show through and letting that personality that we know, personality and vision that we know is the right vision for Ontario, comes through. So that's how you practically do it, by speaking up on it. You know, I've been at those tables before. I was at the table as a federal party vice president. I was at the table on the Ford campaign and in several winning campaigns. So I know that balance that has to be struck between the central campaign, the leader, and the ridings, and that was way out of whack this last campaign.
John.
I think Tim Hudak might have put this the best. I think the day after the campaign was over, someone asked him how we could have done, if he could have done any better. He said, "Well, I could have been more scripted." You know, and so, you know, I think that message is very clear, and certainly very clear with Tim Hudak. Look, we need to be when we go into this next election. It's a very serious time for the province. Again, you can't overstate the challenges that are facing the next premier of this province. And we need to be very clear with people where we stand, how we're going to face those challenges, how we're going to solve them. We also need to remind people, and we haven't done this, that there was once a premier that could stand in the Legislative Assembly with a list of his promises and go check, check, check. There's some credibility in that history that we need to remind people of. But we have to be good at everything, and it starts with being willing to take some risks. And that begins in the policy development process. You can't do good policy development unless you're willing to trust people. And we've proven that again and again and again. That shows up throughout the campaign, the willingness to be bold, the willingness to be certain, and the willingness to take risks. And that's across the spectrum of our activities.
Go back to you, Kevin, for the next question here.
More Toronto Star articles we need?
There's some great columns in the Toronto Sun, by the way, just in case.
You might want to check your own websites too, I must say. How would you ensure that another loss does not happen? You as president, what can you specifically do to ensure that the party wins again?
Sure. Well, it's an important question because goodness knows Ontario needs to get rid of Dalton McGuinty. None of us want our kids to grow up in Dalton McGuinty's Ontario. There are three important legs on the stool of our party. We've got the leader in caucus, we've got the executive led by the president, and the fund. I'm running to be president of the party. I also intend to be a candidate again in the next election. And I think Tim and caucus want to have 30 or 40 extra members added to our caucus. Sure, we got 12 new MPPs, and that was a great beachhead. But we need to get the job done with 30 or 40 more. That's why I've got a 5-point plan that people can see at kevingaudet.ca. We talk about running to win, not to avoid losing. We talk about invigorated outreach. We talk about nominating candidates early. We talk about 21st century communications. Those are the types of tools that we need to put in place, not to mention the critical elements of the policy process that we need to put to enable those candidates across the province so I and 50 others hopefully can join Tim in caucus so we have a majority government.
Richard.
Yeah, we've clearly got to get back, as we talked already, to a bold, membership-driven policy plan and platform. That's the key. really, in terms of winning next time. We've got to give the flexibility to our local campaigns to run the campaign that they need locally. We've got to be fair with the people who want to run for our party. That was another issue in the last campaign, where people who came forward to be candidates for the nomination were pushed aside essentially and told they could run. That's against the best democratic tradition of our party, so we need to get back to fair, open, and democratic nominations. And again, we've just got to let Tim be Tim, and all get behind our leader. That's the formula to winning the next election.
John?
First, let me be clear. I think that any of the three of us one of the three of us will be president, and any of the three of us can be president of a party that forms a majority government after the next election. Let's be clear about that. Our party has to do everything well. I mean, the days of being able to be weak in one area and win an election in this province are over. We have to be good at all the aspects that a party has of fundraising, developing policy, finding 107 great candidates across the province, putting our message clearly to people, the people of Ontario. We have to have a great campaign team. We have a great leader. All the elements are there for us to take on the challenges that face Ontario right now and defeat a government that frankly is not satisfying, not facing those challenges at all. It's there for us. We need to do everything well. The critical piece that I think I bring to this as a president is I have been there at all of those phases. And I understand what it's going to look like for a Tim Hudak government when they face the difficult challenges. I understand what we're building for and the importance of having a mandate with the people of Ontario to do the things we need to do. I think the party as a whole is enthusiastic. I think the spirit's never been better. We've been across this province over the last month and a half, and I tell you, there are people who are completely engaged, in part because they're disappointed in the last result and determined not to have that happen again, but also because they see their province in an economic ditch and they desperately want to be part of lifting it out.
All right, I've heard a lot here of agreement between the three of you. I'm going to ask each one of you what differentiates you from the other two. So,
sure. Look, I'm an organizer. I've spent 17 years in the trenches, winning campaigns at the local level, federally, provincially, municipally. So I know what it takes to win, and I'm prepared to do the hard work of getting out there to the ridings. I think I also have the perspective, the very recent perspective, having been part of the Harper team and vice president of the Conservative Party of Canada. We had a lot of challenges as a party. We just merged two parties together, and so I saw the hard organizational work that had to go into doing that. I ran the national training program for our campaign managers and our riding activists, so I think that's the unique strength that I bring to the table, is how to actually organize the party in the way we need to. And I think that's what we need right now. Again, we have a leader. We don't need a public face. We don't need a president who's the public face of the party. That's what the leader and the candidates and the MPPs are for.
Kevin.
Thank you, Sue, for
what
having.
Makes you different?
Yeah, no, look, I'm not a professional politician. I'm not one of the backroom guys. I'm a party member. I used to head up an organization called the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, a principled conservative advocacy group that advocated for lower taxes, less waste, and more accountable government. And we were successful across Canada, leading the national agenda on conservative issues. We were nimble, flexible, with few resources. And we were really good at mobilizing our over 70,000 supporters, our grassroots. So as a party member with some expertise in mobilizing the grassroots, I think that's the special area of expertise that I can bring to the table.
John?
You mean, what do I bring that's distinct despite my, or in addition to my haircut, right? Well, look, I've spent the last 20 years on three things: leadership, change, and courage. And I think I have something to add to the mix and to help in having a great leader and an even greater premier for this province in Tim Hudak. I think I have something to add to the mix in terms of working with our members to make sure that what's in their hearts and minds is reflected in their party. And I'm looking forward to the challenge of that.
All right, gentlemen, we are out of time for the roundtable portion of the debate. Thank you for that. And it's now time for closing statements. And remember, they are 1 minute in length. First, we're going to go to you, John Snobelin.
Well, thank you. And again, thanks for the opportunity for this. It was useful and fun. I would like to say that it is an honor to be in a contest for president. I think it says a lot about our party that there is one. I'm looking forward to leaving Niagara Falls with the hearts and minds of Conservatives united behind our leader, Tim Hudak, ready to do the tough work that it's going to take to have our party ready to win the next election. I think that I share the values of Conservatives, PC members across the province, and that I think it's time for us to be proud again. I think it's time for us to be bold again. And I think it's time for us to make the difference our province needs as it faces the difficult challenges over the next couple of years. We're ready. We're going to win the next election. More importantly, we're going to restore Ontario to prosperity. To do that, I'm going to need the vote from the delegates. I hope to receive that. Let me say again, it's been an honor to be in the contest with my two colleagues.
Kevin Gaudet, 1 minute.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Ontario News Watch, for having organized this important debate. You've heard us as candidates disagree a little bit tonight, but we do agree that we have a great party with a great leader and a great future. And the future is now, and that's why I think we need a president who can get things done. And I think I can be that president. I'm the only candidate in this race who ran in the last election, and it was through that I learned the good things that we did during the election campaign and some of the things we did wrong. And that's why I realized that in order to fix this party, I don't think we can reach into our past, and I don't think we should reach into our back rooms. I think the answer is simple. I think we need to mobilize our grassroots. We need to involve you in getting our party back on track for a better future. So I look forward to your support in February at the convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've had a chance to hear from all the candidates. I respect my opponents greatly, and I know them to have great passion for the party and strengths of their own. But each of their strengths and the nature of our experience are very different. I've been consistently working in the trenches of this party and the federal party for 17 years. I know what it takes to build a strong, motivated, and powerful organization, an organization that can win. We can't afford to lose another election. As I've said, I've put together a detailed plan to win the next election. I encourage you to review it at timetowin.ca. A change in culture is needed at our party headquarters to ensure that our membership is respected and heard. It'll take hard work that I'm volunteering to do. It's time to win. I'm asking for you to support me, Richard Chano, in Niagara Falls.
No one over time.
Hard
Congratulations on that.
We're Conservatives, for goodness sake.
You are. Well, we have come to the end of our debate, and I hope it has enlightened you and perhaps helped some PC delegates to make up their mind in this race. I'd like to thank the candidates for President of the PC Party of Ontario, Richard Chano, Kevin Gaudet, and John Snobelin, and congratulate all of you for having the courage to put your names forward and participate in our democratic system. And to all our online viewers, thank you for watching. I'm Susanna Kelly, and this has been an Ontario News Watch special.